I love playing against tier 0 decks. Very interactive, definitely not oppressive. And even after this video, some may say Galaxy Eyes is even tier 0. Trust me, Konami's doing a great job balancing the game. But moving on, many of you have asked, how do you beat Tearlament as a Galaxy Eyes player? But fear not, as the Galaxy Eyes master, I will not fail to deliver. Now in all seriousness, to beat a tier 0 deck like Tearlament, you're going to need to put certain cards in your deck which are able to counter it. Especially in a tier 0 format, cards like Ghost Reaper can be extremely useful. But what about if you don't open up any of these cards in your starting hand, just like I have? Well, with a bit of luck, assuming that you go first, there is a little bit of counterplay that you can do. To refer to the gameplay that you're watching, if your opponent special summons a card during your first turn, then you can use Cypher Dragon to steal it, and if it's a level 4, you can use it to go into Photon Blast Dragon, or if it's any other level, you can Exceed Summon on top of it, turning it into a light dragon monster, and then use it as link material to go into Soul Flare if you haven't already summoned it. But you may be looking at my end board saying, well, all the negates. But there's two ways as a Galaxy Eyes player that you can beat Tearlaments. Option 1 is to negate choke points within their deck, and you'll see that later on in the video. But in this first duel, I chose the second option, which is to keep as many high attack point monsters on the field for as long as possible. You can see I have Cypher X and Photon Blast Dragon, which protects me from being targeted and being destroyed by battle. Tearlaments can struggle to get rid of your cards. Now they've summoned Kikolos, which is one of their choke points, but we'll get onto that later. Now the Tearlament player is going to carry on with their combo, but you're going to see a bit of a bug here. They're able to remove my Photon Blast Dragon, which shouldn't be the case because it should be under the protection of Cypher X. My assumption is that there's a translation error between the OCG and the TCG, and from my testing, this bug only happens on Master Duel. On other simulators like EDO Pro, Cypher X protects all your cards regardless of whether it was summoned before or after the activation of Cypher X. For this reason, against Tearlaments, I'm going to recommend you use Photon Blast Dragon as your protection. Cypher X is still useful, but its main purpose is for Afterglow's effect. Now as you can see, my opponent couldn't remove all my cards from the field. They're also on 1000 life points and I have number 90 on the field, a monster that's able to negate. All I have to do is to be able to attack once with a monster that has higher attack and win the duel. My opponent does realize this and eventually surrenders. Now on to game 2. Once again, we're playing against Tearlaments. You can hear how excited I am from my voice. Once again, we haven't opened any of the cards that would help us beat Tearlaments easily, but fear not, this time we'll be exploring option B, and that is to negate choke points within Tearlament. By doing this, you will cripple them so much that they can't even play the game. With the amount of foreshadowing in this video, I assume you already know what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what cards you're going to already be running in your Galaxy Eyes deck in order to do this. Referring to the gameplay that you're currently seeing, the first amazing card to go against Tearlaments is Felgrand. Felgrand in a way replaces Cypher X because of that bug. Felgrand technically has a weaker negate compared to number 90 because it has to target a card on the field, but against Tearlaments, you can use this for Kikolos. Kikolos is the main card you want to negate, so using Felgrand is really important. Bear in mind, it's still important for you to have some form of protection for your cards. This is referring back to option A, which Galaxy has for beating Tearlaments, which is to keep as many cards on the field as possible. Once again, referring to the gameplay, you can see we have Photon Blast Dragon instead of Cypher X. Cypher X does have that bug where it won't protect your cards. So instead, using Photon Blast Dragon to protect your cards and using Felgrand as a replacement to activate Afterglow's effect is much better, especially with the fact that Felgrand can target Kikolos to negate it. As you can see from the gameplay, we negate that Kikolos with Felgrand. This negates the entire effect of Kikolos, meaning they can't use its effect at all and they are forced to pass turn. Once again, I want to remind you that we did not open up any staple cards which truly prevent Tearlaments from playing the game. This is with 0 hand traps and 0 board breakers. You can definitely run these board breakers, so when you do open up those cards, you can easily win the game against Tearlaments. I just wanted to show that without them, you can also win the game, assuming you go first. Going second, you have to have those board breakers. Galaxy Eyes can't play through a Abyss Dweller and multiple negates that Tearlaments can produce. Now onto the deck profile. I don't want you to follow this deck profile blindly. because I do have some things to say about it. The main changes to the deck profile are the additions of Ghost Reaper, DD Crow, Ghost Spell, Abyss Dweller, and Kickless to complement the Ghost Reaper. In this case, before you start buying these cards, I just want to say Ghost Reaper is only useful in tier 0 formats, so when eventually Tearlaments do get banned, your Ghost Reaper may slightly become useless. Another thing is that DD Crow is an SR and Ghost Spell is a UR, but DD Crow is much better than Ghost Spell when it comes to the Tearlament matchup. DD Crow cannot be chain blocked, whereas Ghost Spell can, so I would highly recommend you invest in DD Crow rather than Ghost Spell. In my case, I already have Ghost Spell because I play other decks, so I can run Ghost Spell and DD Crow. The addition of Abyss Dweller is to completely shut off Tearlaments. Galaxy Eyes can obviously make rank 4s fairly easily, but you're mainly going to use this if you know you're going up against Tearlaments. As you can see in my past 2 replays against Tearlaments, my opponent special summoned a monster which gave away that they were playing Tearlaments. I could have easily gone into Abyss Dweller, but just in case none of you had Abyss Dweller, I wanted to show you how to play against Tearlaments without Abyss Dweller. Running Abyss Dweller also complements Ghost Reaper. This is because a lot of other decks are going to be running Abyss Dweller and blindly going into it, assuming that you're playing Tearlaments. Unfortunately, Abyss Dweller does cripple Galaxy Eyes as you cannot use Afterglow's effect. Since this is the case, you can use Ghost Reaper to banish Abyss Dweller if your opponent is not playing Tearlaments. In the case that they are playing Tearlaments, you want to target Kickless with Ghost Reaper. Now before you leave, I do want to say this. Tearlaments is a tier 0 deck, and Galaxy Eyes is a rogue deck. Unfortunately, we only have 2 options when it comes down to this format. A, we either wait for Tearlaments to be removed and put on the ban list, or B, we wait for the new support. The new support does make the deck hyper consistent, and we're able to make 4 interruptions really easily, allowing us to play much more hand traps while still remaining consistent and giving us a higher win rate. But it doesn't look like we're getting the new support extremely soon. This is a tier 0 format, so don't feel bad that your Galaxy Eye deck isn't winning against Tearlaments 100% of the time. This video is just to help you win those winnable situations against Tearlaments. But that concludes the video. Thank you for watching, and tell me your tactics for playing against Tearlaments down in the comments. I hope you continue watching my videos.